how does fear and anxiety, and even sometimes this chronic underlying level of fear that so many people don't realize they're experiencing, how does that affect the immune system?
How doesn't it affect the immune system? You know, our emotions can change our biochemistry or our body chemistry with the snap of a finger. You know, a really, really good example is um, you're driving down the highway and all of a sudden you see an accident happening right in front of you and you have to swerve to avoid the accident. There's an emotion that comes up with that input of information that's coming into your eyes. You're not hearing this one. Well, you might be hearing it, you might be hearing it, but you're seeing it. You get an emotion of fear. That emotion it's a beautiful emotion because it gets our body to react very quickly. In an instant, you have a lot of biochemical changes that happen in your body to prepare your body to fight or flight, right? So that you can react quickly. You have like, you know, your reflexes are super fast. So you can take in all the information around you and you know whether you need to speed up, slow down, go right, go left, stop, or do something else, right? And you figure all this out super, super fast. Your breathing goes up, your blood pressure goes up, all the stuff happens. And so when you have emotions of fear or any type of like negative stress, it is changing your body chemistry like that constantly. In some cases, even keeping it in a perpetual state of this activation, right? Where you're in a sympathetic mode or a fight or flight mode. And that can affect your body because, you know, you're getting decreased blood flow into certain parts of your body. Your GI system stops working because, you know, you're in fight or flight, right? All the blood is being diverted to your muscles so that you can run or fight or do whatever you need to do. Your digestive system shuts down. When your digestive system shuts down, your immune system shuts down. And all your brain chemistry functions, you know, they're only going to last so long, right? And so, you know, it causes huge, huge changes in your biochemistry.
Yeah, it's a good example, right? Where that's an acute fear situation that we're really designed with to save our lives or save the lives of a loved one, of a child. You know, where you hear mothers who literally lifted cars up to save their child, or we've all had experiences. I was driving down the freeway when I was a teenager. Actually, I was sitting in the passenger seat, right in the front seat, and my friend was driving. It was a blizzard. It was just a crazy snowstorm, and he was doing like 50 or 60 miles an hour through this crazy blizzard, which was stupid, in this like Pontiac Grand Am, and you could barely see, and we're like in between, we're coming up to like three semis, right? And all of a sudden you can't see very far, and he smashes into the back of a car. The car goes off the freeway, and we end up between three semis. And in that moment, doing like 60 miles an hour, my, logic, reasoning, all that's out the window. It's just total fight or flight, life-saving response. I didn't think about it. All I did was I grabbed the steering wheel, I grabbed the e-brake, I turned the steering wheel, I lifted the e-brake, I let down the e-brake, I turned the steering wheel the other way. And I'm doing this from the passenger seat, right? Your story just reminded me of this. This was a long time ago, but I swerved in between and out of these semis, and basically it saved our life. And it was just that fight or flight, critical life-saving response, which is what we're designed to do, right? We're designed to experience that. How often? Once a week, once a month, a few times a year, maybe, right?
Those are the backup emergency systems. Those are backup emergency systems for this vessel, right? They're not designed to be used all the time.
And yet most people today, certainly in modern society, are living in that fight or flight or freeze response most of their day, right? And maybe talk a little bit about that. Why is that, and what people need to know about that? Living in a chronic fear.
Yeah, that's really fascinating because so many people, they don't even have a baseline of what it feels like to feel normal, like to actually feel good. Normal for them is like way down below baseline because they've never experienced what it feels like to feel totally optimized and totally calm and totally coherent, and and just feeling the way that the human body can feel. Like they never get a chance to experience that high performance race car because they've been, driving around in a Pinto their whole life. Like they've been like not, they never got to experience high performance. And so, this happens because of our society, and not just here in the United States. Like it's all over the world. 2020 was a great example. All of those babies that were born into this planet, into this life last year, they were born into stress and anxiety. They got it from their parents while they were in utero. They were born with it. And now they're in their first year of life going through that. Their baseline is never going to be what our baseline is, Nathan. You and I, we've done a lot of work. Our baseline is optimal. We drive like a high performance, we're like a Ferrari, and we feel good and we know how to work our bodies. We know how to drive the car. These kids are being born with a baseline that's way below, it's subpar. And so these kids, we're going to see delete, this could happen, that we see that these kids start having autoimmune diseases and other things even earlier than they already do. We already have a pandemic around the world of even kids dying of cancer, dying of suicide because they have mental health issues from the time they're 10, 8 years old. They're wanting to commit suicide. Kids with autoimmune diseases, kids with all of these issues. Now that we've had 2020 happen, the parents who bought into the fear unknowingly, and then had kids, those kids are being born into that. They are very likely going to end up having health problems starting from 3, 4, 5 years old, like chronic health problems. And so, but we've been like this already before 2020. Most people's baseline was below where it should be because they've been experiencing anxiety, fear. They've had traumas happen to them. Even somebody pulling on your pigtails and calling you fat when you're in second grade, that's a trauma. It doesn't have to be like, a sexual assault or something like that to be considered a trauma. It could be, dad was working all the time and always came home tired and never wanted to play with the little kid. And so the kid had trauma from that. And we're not taught how to process emotions and how to feel emotions. So we bury all that down. That's a whole nother level of issues that causes. That causes changes in your genetic expression. So, holding back emotions causes, long-term physical damage to your body, to your organ systems. And so we start having these issues happen from the time we're young because it's life. Then we get into school and we're overworked in school. We don't get any chance to play, which play is healing and it's teaching for us. The kids don't get a chance to play anymore. Their parents are working all the time. So there's no quality time. So the kids are growing up like this. We were growing up, we were in the beginning part of that type of lifestyle. I grew up having stress from the time that I was around 3 years old. I don't remember feeling stressed at 3, but I remember what was happening with my family at that point. And I can remember a little bit about maybe how I felt, and I wouldn't have categorized it as stress at 3, right? But I've done a lot of work on mindset repatterning and trauma work and releasing emotions and really catching up with the emotional intelligence aspect of my mind, body, and spirit so that I could pull myself out of fight or flight. I lived in fight or flight my whole life and didn't even know it because that was normal for me because it started when I was 3. And so we're being raised in it and we're not aware of it. It's an unconscious thing. And so we're being raised in it. And so it becomes this chronic issue. And then when things go sideways, like they did last year, I say when shit goes sideways, like what happened last year, people are already not at a good baseline. Their frontal cortex, they've never been able to fully develop it. Some of the people that started on antidepressants when they were 10 and they're now in their 20s and 30s, they never developed their frontal cortex fully. So they can't think logically. And as soon as you have fear that comes in on the back end, all logic goes right out the window. And you can't discern between what's real and not, what's truth or a lie. It's really damaging, Nathan.